Hi, in this video I'll help you get to know your car a little better. At the end of this video I've put together a straightforward infographic that summarizes all the key points. Like, subscribe and comment below. It really helps.
You know that feeling, right? You're just driving, and then bam! A weird warning light pops up on your dash. Well, today we're going to crack the code on one that's super common for Chevy owners, the P0646 error. So picture this, you're cruising along, music's on, everything's great, and then the check engine light comes on. Your car is trying to tell you something. It's sending you a message. Let's play detective and figure out exactly what it's saying. All right, the code we're investigating is P0646. I know, that sounds super technical, like something out of a sci-fi movie. But all it really means is that your car's AC system tried to turn on, and it noticed the electrical voltage was way lower than it should be. That's it. That's our first big clue. So what does this warning actually mean when you're behind the wheel? Let's break down this first piece of evidence in our little investigation. Think of it this way. You hit the AC button, right? You're basically sending a request for some nice, cool air. But somewhere down the line, that signal hits a roadblock. See, the system needs a certain amount of juice, a certain voltage to work safely. When it doesn't get that power, it throws up this code, basically saying, hey, something's wrong here and I'm not going to turn on till you fix it. Now, every good mystery has its usual suspects, and this one is no different. We've got 5 common culprits that could be causing this whole mess. Let's line them up. Here's our lineup. We could be dealing with some simple poor connections, or maybe it's a faulty relay. It could also be a bad control module, a worn-out AC clutch, or even a wonky temperature sensor. Any one of these could be our guy. Okay, suspect number 1 is usually the most common, and thankfully, it's often the easiest to catch. We're talking about a bad electrical connection. Over time, wires can get all corroded, or a plug might just wiggle itself loose. That's enough to interrupt the electrical flow and trigger that low voltage code. And the good news? The fix is usually pretty straightforward. You just need to do a little detective work yourself. Get in there and clean up any dirty connectors, swap out any wires that look like they've seen better days, and just make sure everything is plugged in nice and tight. A lot of the time, that's all it takes. Case closed. Let's move on to suspect number 2, the AC clutch relay. The best way to think of this little guy is like a heavy-duty light switch. It takes that tiny signal from your AC button and uses it to turn on the big, power-hungry circuit for the AC clutch. If that switch goes bad, it just can't send the right amount of power. So what do you do if the relay is the problem? Well, this one's pretty direct. These relays fail all the time. If your tests show it's not working right, you just got to replace it with a new one. It's usually a quick and pretty cheap fix. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. This quote points out something crucial. The problem might not be the relay itself, but the thing that tells the relay what to do. That's a little thing called a driver inside the car's main computer, the powertrain control module, or PCM. All right, our last 3 suspects are all about the hardware. We're talking about actual parts failing. The control module that manages the whole show, the AC clutch that does the heavy lifting, or the temperature sensor that's feeding bad information. If any of these parts break down internally, boom, you get our low voltage error. And just like with the relay, if you track down the problem to one of these components, there's only one real solution: replacement. These parts are too complex to fix, so a new one has to go in to get things working again. So, we've met all the suspects. But to really understand what's happening, we need to look at the crime scene itself. How is this AC system even supposed to work in the first place? This chart lays it all out perfectly. It's a chain of command. You've got the PCM, the car's brain, which sends the order. That order goes to the AC relay, the switch, which then flips on and sends a big jolt of power to the AC clutch. The clutch is the muscle that gets the whole thing moving. If any link in that chain breaks, the whole system just stops working. Let's go back to the brain for a second, the PCM. Inside that computer, it uses a tiny little switch called a driver to send the green light to the relay. It basically completes the circuit so electricity can flow. But if that microscopic switch inside the car's main computer fails, the signal never goes out and your AC is dead in the water. Okay, so we understand the suspects and we understand the system. So how do you actually solve this thing? You need a solid game plan, an action plan. And here's the absolute key. You have to be methodical. Always start simple. Check all the wiring and connections first. If that all looks good, then you move on to testing the relay. If the relay is fine, then you can start looking at the other bigger components. And hey, if all signs are pointing to the main computer, the PCM, that's probably when it's time to call in a professional. By following this order, from the easiest fix to the most complex, you're going to save yourself a ton of time and, let's be honest, probably a lot of money too. You're not just guessing and throwing parts at it, you're being a real detective, crossing suspects off the list until you find the real culprit. So that P0646 code, it's not just some random, scary error. It's a message. It's your car's first clue, pointing you in the right direction. And now you've got the list of suspects and a clear action plan. You have everything you need to get out there and investigate. So the only question left is, are you ready to solve the case?